We've all been there. The date started off so well. Exquisite food has been consumed, the candlelight is setting just the right mood, and you and your partner just can't seem to take your eyes off each other. Maybe it's time to take this to the next level? Maybe you could, play a board game. But oh no! You've selected Nemesis! 2 hours later, one of you is frustratedly searching for a rules disambiguation, one of you has been blown out of an airlock, that's not a euphemism, and it is only at this moment that you realise your partner isn't half as attractive covered in slime. Disaster! How could this have been avoided? What better game could you have proposed to bring the night to a satisfyingly romantic conclusion? Only then does it dawn on you. Love Letter, a game surely much better themed for your romantic interludes, perfect for those quiet nights in with the one you love. No, not really, but let's review its many other qualities anyway. The city-state of Tempest is amid a process of rebalance following the arrest of Queen Mariana on charges of high treason. You seek to court her daughter, the Princess Annette, to bring some joy into her life. No, seriously, I'm not making this up for a change, this is genuinely the premise of the game as written in the rulebook. So romantic. Anyway, with the princess heavily guarded, you will rely on intermediaries to carry your love letter, but you are in competition with the other players who will work to ensure their sonnets reach her first. Play will take place over a series of rounds, and the letter of the player that holds the highest ranked card at the end of each round, or the only suitor whose agent has not been caught and their letter therefore destroyed, will be considered to have reached the eyes of the princess. The player that first reaches a given number of rounds won, determined by the number of players in the game, will canonically be considered the suitor who has managed to ensure a critical number of love letters has reached the princess, successfully wooing her. It seems like there would be a little more to such a seduction, but that's probably why I'm not a princess. At the start of each round, one card is removed from the game unseen, and a further 3 cards are discarded face up if you're playing a 2-player game. Each player is then dealt a single card, and the remainder form the draw pile. Each player will hold 1 card in their hand at all times unless they are knocked out of the game. Each card consists of a character and number. When no more cards can be drawn, the remaining character closest to the princess, represented by the highest number left in all players' hands, will deliver the love letter of the player that holds them, winning them the round. It is not uncommon, however, for only one player to remain long before the deck is exhausted. Most notably, if a player is ever forced to discard the princess herself, they immediately lose the round. On your turn, you will draw a second card and then decide which of the two, the one you already had or the one you have just drawn, you will discard to activate its effect as well as the target of its effects if applicable. Each of the card characters will convey a different effect on the game state when played, and going through each of them in turn is a good way to get a sense of the game and its tension. With a value of 1, guards sit at the bottom of the hierarchy but are the most numerous card in the game, comprising almost a third of the cards. When you play a guard, you must declare another non-guard character, who goes their style, as well as a player to challenge. If the card in that player's hand matches the character you declared, they are out of the game. Guards are strong against other guards, being immune to such challenges, but are unlikely to be a winning card due to their low value and the luck-based nature of their ability. The 2 priests in the game will allow you to view another player's card. While undoubtedly powerful, the other player will always get another turn to shed the card you have seen, or to retaliate against you before you have a chance to use this information. The 2 barons, meanwhile, will instigate a challenge between the remaining card in your hand and that of another player, with the highest value card knocking out the opposing player. If you have a very high card in your hand, or have picked up on a clue that the other player's hand might be weak, this can be a quick way of dispatching the competition. The handmaids, while not particularly high value cards, will protect you from all opposing card effects until your next turn, particularly useful if you have a higher value card in the later stages of the game and just need to ride out the last few turns. The princes allow you to choose any player, yourself included, and force them to discard their remaining card and draw a new one, unless of course you manage to catch the princess doing so, ending the round for that opponent. The king allows you to swap hands with an opponent of your choice, but more importantly is the third highest card in the game. With a value of 7, the countess is second only to the princess and could be sufficient to win the round if you can hold on to her until the game closes. However, if at any time you hold both the countess and either the king or one of the princes at the same time, you will be forced to discard the countess, potentially revealing your remaining card to your opponent, especially in the latter stages of the game where some of the 3 cards that trigger this action may have already been played. Of course, you could choose to voluntarily discard the countess with no game effect, but potentially encouraging your opponents to waste guards guessing cards you never had. Another reason you might have to do this is because your other card is the princess, a possibility worth considering if your opponent discards the countess after the princes and king have been revealed. At the top of the hierarchy, princess with a unique value of 8 will always win in Baron challenges, and is certain to win you the game in the event you still hold her at the end of the game. But the inability to discard her means you will always play the card you draw no matter the circumstances from then on. Frankly, it can be very difficult to hold on to the princess if she arrives in your hand early, with all other players watching each move closely in the hope of finding her hiding place. To someone not having played the game, this will seem like a lot of information to remember and consider, but in reality, with all effects clearly stated on the cards themselves, and the number of cards of each type in the game clearly listed on a handy reference sheet, new players, including those not used to playing tabletop games, will generally pick up the rules really quickly, and the minimal time frame from learning to competence in this game is a major point in its favour. The cards that have been played or discarded will also remain face up and visible in front of each player, allowing players the ability to look back over the cards that have already been revealed and consider what cards could be left in each player's hands, though the removal of one card from the deck at the start of the game means even on the last turn you can't be completely certain. Love Letter has proved a popular game and has gone on to spawn many different versions with slightly different cards and rules. The 2019 edition of the game, for example, adds the Spy and the Chancellor, whilst other editions have been produced with rules themed around the Cthulhu mythos, Batman, Tolkien, Star Wars and more besides. But to be honest, I'm a big fan of the simplicity and elegance delivered by the edition I own from Alderac Entertainment Group, as well as the beautiful artwork from Andrew Hepworth and Jeffrey Himmelman in this set. With so few components and being very much pocket-sized, this edition even has a drawstring bag for maximum portability, Love Letter is the sort of game you might take anywhere on the off chance of getting a few hands in. A single round will take no more than a few minutes to complete and is often much faster. That said, once you get started, you may find it difficult to stop at one game, never mind one round. Games can have considerable swings of favour and are often won on the turn of a card. While this does make luck a significant factor, it does, along with its speed, create that just one more appeal that I've talked about often in the past. I can also highly recommend the video game adaptation, which is just a straightforward no-bells emulation of the physical game, but creates the option of remote play when you can't get together with your fellow players in person. Frankly, after long days of editing, logging on and playing a few hands with the other members of the NSG team has become one of my favourite ways to unwind. Love Letter does have its limitations. Whilst it would be untrue to say it is a game without skill or tactics, the reality is the players each have relatively little control over their fates, having at most a choice of 2 card effects that can be played on their turn. Depending on your tolerance for luck in such games, this may or may not be a deal breaker, though again the relative speed at which a round can be played does tend to dilute any salt I might feel about the way individual rounds have played out. It should also be understood that having a hand size of 1 in a game with only 16 cards creates a very high level of uncertainty until the final turns of the game. It is not only possible but probable that you will play a failed guard challenged against a player only for them to pick up that card the very next turn. This makes trust and honesty core tenets of the game experience. The game simply doesn't work without them. So if you prefer your card games to have a more active deception element, this may not be the best fit for you. Despite its theme, and whilst Love Letter can be played as a couple, it is much more fun when 3 or 4 players are involved. This just creates more opportunity for you to get away with the big plays and stops killer combos like Baron Princess being automatic round winners. This is another reason that, unless you're in a polyamorous or open relationship, you might choose a different game to feature as part of your hot Valentine's Day evening. What's that? What do you mean most people don't play board games on Valentine's Day? People have no sense of romance these days. As a game to woo that special tabletop gamer in your life, it may not be quite on the money, with both its premise and its gameplay being romantic only in name. But Love Letter will almost certainly earn its place at your court. It's probably one of the lightest games we have ever featured on the channel, but its accessibility and the elegance of its rules make it an irresistible choice, and one sure to divert even those among your friends who insist tabletop games are not their type. If you haven't locked eyes across a crowded room with it yet, we can definitely recommend spending the evening with Love Letter. Thanks for watching, and as always, do let us know in the comments if this is a game close to your heart or the subject of a messy breakup for you. While you're at it, don't keep your passion for us a secret this Valentine's Day. Show us some love with a like, a comment, or dare I say a subscribe. Regardless, be sure of our affection for each and every one of you. Remember to be kind to yourselves, and as always, work hard, play better, and take care out there.